Hello, Chi. Thanks for taking the time to join us. The topic that everybody has been talking about in the newsroom this morning is those poor horses. What's happened to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it was, I suppose, quite dramatic coverage, but I would just want to stress to your viewers that very exceptional event. So there were 5 horses. They have all been recovered. 3 of them are fine. 2 of them are unfortunately in a relatively serious condition. And obviously, we will be monitoring that situation.
Are they still alive?
Pardon?
Are those 2 horses that we see here, I'm guessing those are the 2 that you're talking about, are they still alive?
Sorry, I didn't catch it yet. They are in a serious condition, but as I understand, still alive, yeah.
OK. What are their names?
Vida and Quaker.
Vida and Quaker, thank you. Of course, I remember, I'm old enough to remember what happened with a previous horse at the Hyde Park bandstand. I don't know if you remember that, Minister, and how important it is as an animal-loving nation that we care about animals as well as people who serve our country. Talk to me about the railways, if you would, please. You've heard what Labour is suggesting. Is it going to work?
Well, I think the most important thing to say on that, and actually I think someone on your panel made this point, which is ultimately if the government is going to run something, the government has to pay for it. And that means ultimately taxpayers. Now, the plan is unfunded. We don't know how much it's going to cost. What I would stress is that actually we saw rail passenger numbers double under privatisation. Of course, they then took a massive hit in the pandemic. For a significant period, we couldn't even use the trains except in exceptional situations. So obviously that has hit rail travel, but the railways are now recovering, and we've done a lot of work to ensure that. But I think that's the key question, really. This is an unfunded commitment from Labour. Ultimately, taxpayers will have to pick up the bill, and we need to know how much that figure is.
Just to clarify, trains now recovering, the rail service, more than 1,000 trains a day cancelled altogether since November to February, latest figures that we've got, and 2/3 of those that did run weren't on time.
Well, of course, we have had significant disruption on the railways through industrial action. It's disappointing. We think we've made a good offer to the unions and supporting rail companies to negotiate with their employees. That disruption is unfortunate, and it does make it harder for the railways to recover. And we have seen a significant increase in off-peak travel, rail recovering, not quite back to where it was before the pandemic, but significant improvement. And I think actually, if you go for nationalisation, the potential for disruption to service is in terms of uncertainty. Just to give you one example, a part of Labour's plan is that elected mayors would have a role in rail services. Now that's all well and good to say, but as you'll be well aware, a train can go through more than one political district. What happens when a train goes from London to counties surrounding London? Who will be accountable for that? So there's a lot of questions over this policy. I think the crucial thing is to support the recovery of our railways, and as I say, I hope that the disruption from industrial action will reduce, and that we'll see railways continue to recover from the pandemic.
The mid-80s, we had the best, or one of the best, rail services in Europe. Subsidies cut by 70% during the Thatcher era. 1993, privatised by John Major. As a result, we found ourselves spending billions in subsidies for rail companies, most of that going to shareholders.
Well, hold on a minute. I mean, as I said, actually privatisation led to a doubling in the number of the people using our railways. It's been a significant success story, huge investment from the private sector. But as I said, if that investment hadn't come from the private sector, it has to come from somewhere, and it would have to come ultimately from taxpayers. So I think that's the key question about this policy. How much is it going to cost taxpayers? At the moment, it's unfunded.
OK, talk to me about what you've been up to with the Challenger 3.
Well, so I was out in Germany yesterday for the test firing of Challenger 3. It's an incredibly capable tank, the most lethal and survivable we've ever had in the British Army. It's going through those trials so that we can start to bring it out into service with the Army. And I think it just underlines our commitment to ensuring that our armed forces have the best possible capability.
OK. I did have your boss on yesterday, the Defence Secretary, and he said if he found himself in a position where he had 3% of GDP to spend on defence, he wouldn't be able to spend it at the moment. How much do these tanks cost?
Well, I think the point that the Secretary of State was saying, which is incredibly important, I'm the Minister of Defence Procurement. If we put more money in, the public, who are taxpayers, want to know that it is spent well. And that's why I think it's actually quite appropriate that as we go to 2.5%, we're increasing steadily over that 6-year period. It's £75 billion cash extra. But you're absolutely right. We do need to ensure that the money is well spent. It's not just about tanks, it's about capability. And a key part of the announcement yesterday from the Prime Minister, £10 billion into munitions. So we want to get our stockpiles of key ordnance back up to where they were, that's shells, missiles and so on. And the really good news is a significant part of that spending will be in the United Kingdom, supporting jobs and prosperity around the country.
OK, it's good to talk to you, Minister. Thanks for taking the time, very much appreciated. I do hope those horses pull through. It's not sounding great, is it? But thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.